Good evening. Welcome to our first webinar of the new year. My name is Becca Mackesy, and I'm happy to host today's webinar from Christian Brothers Conference and the Lasallian region of North America. Also joining me behind the scenes is Sarah Leighton, Director of Education and Formation, and we're thrilled to be with you. I'm grateful for you all for making the time this afternoon or this evening to join us and explore the topic of AI in education and society. It's a privilege to have Lasallians joining us from across the country, and greetings to our international participants as well. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes. The chat section of Zoom is open, and we encourage you to leave your comments and questions there, and Michael will respond at the appropriate moments. And just as a note, this webinar is being recorded and will be available for your viewing on our Lasallian Resource Center website at lasallianresources.org. We will provide you with a copy via the email you used to register when the link becomes available on the Resources Center for your viewing. Other past and future webinar recordings will also be available on our Resource Center as well. It's my privilege to introduce today's presenter, Dr. Michael Radicek, as he shares his insights about AI in education and society. Dr. Michael Radicek is a program director of the Business Intelligence and Data Analytics programs and director of the Center for Business Analytics at St. Mary's University of Minnesota. He leads multiple graduate programs and certificates spanning business analytics, data science, AI strategy, healthcare analytics, HR analytics, and supply chain analytics, with a focus on applied industry-relevant education. Michael holds a PhD focused on technology and AI adoption, with research examining how organizations successfully move from early experimentation to sustainable enterprise-level use of analytics and artificial intelligence. His work bridges academic research and practical implementation, emphasizing data-driven culture, analytic maturity, ethical decision-making, and organizational readiness. In addition to his academic leadership, he works closely with industry partners, professional associations, and community organizations to design experimental learning initiatives, applied analytic projects, and executive-level programming. He's an active speaker on topics including data maturity models, AI adoption strategies, analytic failures and lessons learned, and the evolving role of generative AI in business and higher education. Michael brings extensive experience in business analytics education, strategic management, and cross-functional collaboration, and is known for translating complex analytical concepts into clear, actionable insights for both technical and non-technical audiences. Prior to academia, Michael worked in a multinational corporation as a commodity intelligence and pricing director, supporting operations across multiple countries. In this role, he developed pricing, cost optimization, and market intelligence analytics to guide strategic sourcing and commercial decisions. He partnered closely with sales, purchasing, and supply chain teams, aligning pricing strategy with cost structures, supplier dynamics, and demand signals. Michael, thank you for being with us tonight, and I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Good?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, yes, thank you all for joining today. It's my privilege. I'm thrilled to be here to share my experiences, what I've observed, and help us move forward as Lasallian educators. So before we actually get into the meat of everything, I put together this poll everywhere that if you'd like to take a minute or two and respond to this one question, and then we can reflect back on that answer, and that'll help me provide some emphasis in this presentation. Each of the slides that I have presented today could be their own topic, could be their own webinar. This field is just so rich. So this will actually help me provide some emphasis today at certain spots. So I'll just let you take a moment or two here. Okay, so if everybody can see my screen here, I went into Poll Everywhere and we've 94% said yes, you've used a generative AI tool such as ChatGPT, Meta, Claude, Gemini, or Grok. When I asked this question of audiences early on, a couple years ago, obviously it was zero, but then 20%, 40%. And I held a faculty workshop a couple of months ago, and it was 66%. So I don't know if that means we're all up and up now, or just as time passes, this number is obviously going to be increasing. Um, but no, this is a good stat for me to know here. Okay, so back to this presentation here. Just as a reminder, the webinar provides an overview of how artificial intelligence is reshaping society, highlighting its growing impact on different industries, and the role, quite active role that students play in this transformation. Just a short disclaimer, in this session, you may see or hear information related to scams, legal issues, and real-world examples, and this is all for educational purposes. As we mentioned in the webinar, the good, bad, and the ugly, I do believe in a holistic approach as much as we can do with our time together today. But I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there that we will be talking about some scams uh, and other related things. Uh, it's all safe for work, so if you're on a work computer, don't worry about that. Yeah. So I'm going to start with a little story. It all began one day, November 30th, 2022. And this was me. The world is changing. I dropped pretty much everything and I ran to administrators. I went to the provost, I went to the dean, I went to my chair, I went to the president, and I said, the game is changing. The way that we're going to do everything is changing. If we can just type something into a system and get an answer back that is remotely accurate, only time and more money from businesses and government will make it better. So I was running the administrator, anybody that would listen to me, say, hey, this can change everything. And what I did was I gave them examples. And I have those examples for you today. I won't lean too heavily in them if the majority of you, 94%, have used a tool like this before, but I will give you some context on things you might not have thought of. So one of the difficulties in a presentation like this is I'm not sure what percentage of the audience has done all of these before. So I'm just going to walk through a couple of these. So the very basic is writing an email, writing thank you emails. So tips and examples for professional thank yous you could ask for. You could ask for different ways to add content to a thank you email. I will show you a few of these at some point through the presentation, but just a quick list. As we're all educators on this call, the second one is trouble with Python. Now, my programs are face-to-face on ground. I also have online asynchronous, which means there's no required meetings. A student could be working at 5 in the morning, 5 p.m., or 11 at night on their schoolwork. They could be coming to class or they could be doing it independently. And sometimes students have questions. And we all have students that perhaps wait to the last minute to start their homework or through life. I teach working adults as well in our graduate programs, and they have busy lives. They're taking care of children, taking care of parents. They have work to do. And sometimes the best they can do is start homework at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night. That is sometimes the best they can do. And they're often successful with that. Okay. But sometimes some of the classes that we teach do have homework assignments that have varying lengths or are more software dependent or simply have issues with setting up what you need to do, whether it's software to make a chart, whether it's software to design something fun in Adobe Photoshop. or else Illustrator, um, prepare a skit, something along those lines. Um, ChatGPT and other tools can really help diagnose problems that students are facing when it comes to environmental issues, especially at 11 o'clock at night when we're not expecting our faculty or myself to be up at 11 o'clock checking my email on the off chance that a student is struggling with something. Exam practice. I can show you some of these examples too, but I think you could probably, understand them. Uh, you can upload PowerPoint slide decks, you can copy and paste lessons, and ask ChatGPT or any of these tools, create a 20-question quiz for me, multiple choice, to practice for my exam, practice for my quiz, something along those lines. Very useful when students are preparing for industry certifications, when you have a file that you're able to share, or even ChatGPT and some of these tools actually understand some of these files, so you could reference them. Okay. Strawberries and Daryl Strawberry. You may be aware of some of the things that you can ask ChatGPT or Gemini or these tools to do. Ask them a question, get some information back, but you can also create artwork. Or they will create artwork, that the tool will, and it will do it based on your prompting. So strawberry, illustrate a picture of a strawberry, and then throw me some stats based on Daryl Strawberry from the New York Mets or New York Yankees, as well. There are people out there, myself included. I have a YouTube channel called Faceless Narration, where I use artificial intelligence to create stories for me, to create narrating voices for me, and to create images and then video off of those images. So if you've ever watched National Geographic or Animal Discovery Channel or History Channel, where they show medieval battles and they show different pieces of history happening, and they have 6 to 10 second clips. Back then, those were real actors and there was real photography and filming. I can take a picture of a person, or I can ask ChatGPT, Gemini, all these tools, create an image of a medieval knight, a Knights Templar, in the Crusades or after the Crusades, before the Crusades, whatever. Take that image into another tool and say, I want you to have this person walking from right to left off screen, swinging his sword in the air. And it'll do that. It'll create a 6-second, 10-second clip. And now you can use that in a project. You can use that in a commercial. I'm not talking ethics here or legal at this point. I'm just giving you the capabilities of the technology. So you can string those 10-second clips together and start having a YouTube video where you're educating people on the Crusades. Okay. Or in my world, an example that a business analyst might face in a company with frustrating stakeholders, people that are arguing, people not listening in a meeting. So giving some role play kind of video content to students is another way you can think about this idea of video content being made by AI. You could also ask about gardening. I'm a green thumb, and this is a true one. I'm in Minnesota, and it was late August, early September, and I had a ton of green tomatoes on my vines. I was like, okay, this is unusual. At least half of them should be red or orange, turning. Some of them should be split by now, because I didn't pick them enough. But so many green ones. So I kind of knew the answer because my grandparents gardened a lot. My mom gardened a lot. Wasn't my first time gardening, but I wanted to see what AI would tell me about it. And it gave me great information about, green tomatoes do ripen. That's what my mom taught me. You put them on a windowsill and they will eventually ripen. However, AI picked up on this and said, however, if they are extremely firm, it's too early. So not all green tomatoes are made equally is essentially the story there. So AI is able to give you some of that information. Now, it can't feel the tomato. You can send it a picture of the tomato and it can analyze it. but it's still not in its actual presence. So there are some give and take scenarios there, but I thought that was very interesting. So moving on, I mentioned ChatGPT quite a bit because it was one of the first that was available. But you see a graphic here that goes from 2022 to the end of 2025. I have 2025 later in 2026. But I want you to think beyond ChatGPT. To me, ChatGPT is the Kleenex of generative AI tools, right? You can get facial tissue anywhere, but there's actually a brand called Kleenex or a Band-Aid. Band-Aid is to the first aid bandage, right? So people often use ChatGPT as mentioning, generative AI tools. But you can see here, we have many tools that are available to the public. Right? The red ones there are focused mostly on image generation. Um, as you call them, aquamarine, almost navy blue, not quite navy blue there, but those are generally what we traditionally think of the text ones. Now, each, Bard, Claude, ChatGPT, Meta, Grok, they are all able to make images as well, and some of them video. ChatGPT can't quite on its own without another device, another tool make video, but that's just a matter of time, you know, um, as well. So these tools play off of each other as well. When one makes a great advance, the other one follows suit. So they're not too far behind each other. One I want to mention here, because I'll mention it later, some of these tools like mage.space, some of these tools allow you to create nudity and sexual imagery. Okay. So they're what we call lack of guardrails. Okay. So it's important to have guardrails on your tools. So just be aware that there are tools out there that have no guardrails. Okay. So doesn't mean that that tool is exclusively for that kind of content. I'm just saying there is not a guardrail on it. So you can ask for that kind of content. Even Grok, which comes from Twitter or formerly known as Twitter, it actually has a button where you can choose to make the image spicy. Okay. I'm not going to focus on that here. I just want you to be aware that this is available in society. Is these tools to a degree have guardrails or lack therein out there. So it's important to be aware of that out there if you're educating students. And while I'm in higher education, I have young children in the K through 12, mostly towards the K part of the 12. And this is something I think about all the time because I do know people who have had teenagers who have had deep fakes made of their children. So something to be aware of is these possibilities that exist out there. So moving on, just to give you a little history lesson as we get going into where we're at today. It started with the tech savvy people get to join a server to access these tools to now they're on our phones. You can talk to your phone and it will do generative AI stuff. So we started with, Midjourney or some of these tools, you had to be on Discord and access them through Discord. Now, if we were in a face-to-face environment or I had another poll ready to go, I would ask, how many of you have ever opened up Discord? So it's a very popular chat environment for people. Can post content, videos, emojis, play games with friends. Not too elaborate, but we're not talking Xbox quality here. And then it became, you have to go to a specific website. So ChatGPT, Claude, Mage, Grok, Meta.ai. I'll mention it again below though as well. But level 3 is where these tools from level 1 and level 2 are integrated with specialized tools. The one missing here is Microsoft Power BI, where we have Copilot and things like that for business software. But again, history lesson, we had to go to some obscure places like a Discord channel to now we go to a website to now it's just at our fingertips, like very convenient for us to access. search engines. I don't know if you've used Google recently, but if you ask it to find something, it'll often come up with a blurb based on AI response that tries to give you the answer, tries to simplify it for you, so you don't have to go to any websites. So 2025, the year we just ended. Now I'd say that we're still doing a lot of these things in 2026, but we're moving. So generative AI moves from novelty to mainstream. Okay? We see people using it for all kinds of reasons, writing code, designing and business tasks, automating business tasks is a big one. We also see people using it for comedy, for entertainment, uh, students asking silly questions to see if they get a silly response back, um, idea generation, writer's block, like, oh, I've got, or, my professor explained it this way and I'm still confused. Can you explain it another way? All kinds of different things. And now it's becoming more and more mainstream. As I'll talk about later, I know people that are integrating a generative AI experience into their assignments. And you might have heard of Purdue's announcement recently and a couple other schools like Ohio State. They're putting forward meaningful integration with AI. Losing jobs to AI or the fear of that. My personal belief is this: if something is repeatable, it is programmable. And if it's programmable, AI can do it. Okay? If it's repeatable, it can be programmed and AI can do it. Okay? So let me drop that grenade. Um, we don't have enough time in this webinar to just talk about that point alone. But um, we're still in the pilot stage in many of these companies where they're looking for proof of concept. We don't have a lot of people educated enough, either on the company side or the new students graduating side, to take pilots to production. That will come. And companies like CFOs, CTOs will start to believe that they can use money in their company to move from pilot to production. I talked to quite a few CTOs, chief technology officers, who are in this pilot stage. They believe AI is going to help them. And that's a whole can of worms too, because then I talk to them, well, what do you mean? Why do you want to use AI? And you get all kinds of different answers. But there's going to be a more acceptable risk structure for moving to production in some ways. Speaking of, conversation will shift from hype and excitement. Oh, this is new. AI is so new. Look at all the stuff you can do in it. To, okay, is it really producing results? If it saves my worker 3 hours of their week, that's great. But do I have 3 different hours of work for them? What does that look like? How long would it take for me to evolve my work day to give that worker who now has 3 hours saved each week a new job or a new task, something like that? So if there isn't something to give them with those 3 hours, then the real question is, do we still need AI? Do we need AI yet? Are we too early in this stage of needing AI? So there's going to be a lot of questions asked about that um, as well. What is the real impact of having 100 workers write emails with AI, saving them a couple hours a week? It sounds great because you can multiply number of workers times 3, but for each individual worker, what does that mean as far as their day-to-day tasks, their operational activities? So over here, I don't know if we all have a technical background, so I'm going to try to move. But AI models will become more capable. You can see like Notebook LM. If you've ever used Notebook LM, you know what I'm talking about. If you had not used Notebook LM, check it out. But also at the end of this call, you'll see my contact info. Rebecca will come on with that information. At St. Mary's through the Center for Business Analytics, we do several webinars where we focus on some specific topics, a little more finite occasionally. Notebook LM is amazing, in my opinion, for students. Now, everything I say, of course, there's good, bad, and the ugly. But if there's one tool that I think can really help students learn, especially students that have adaptive learning concerns or need extra assistance, Notebook LM could be an amazing option. These models will be able to take in new kinds of information, including video content. You can copy a YouTube URL and say, hey, can you give me a summary of this video? Can you give me a PowerPoint slide deck of this video? My professor just told me I have to watch this video and answer these 3 questions. Right? Good, bad, and the ugly. The capabilities exist. You will see more regulatory focus. Right now, there really isn't any regulatory focus. European Union is going to lead that. They always do. They're much more consumer protection focused. You've seen Hollywood actors really concerned, a strike a couple of years ago with the likeness, the ability, the technology is here. It's here, and society has to determine, is this something we want AI to be able to do? And sometimes the government can help with that. Other times it's our pocketbook, it's our wallet, it's our debit card, what we decide to buy with our money. You're going to see more and more use of AI in other areas as well. Misuse, I mentioned the guardrails on some of these tools. Safety and content moderation challenges. There's going to be a need for greater oversight. So you on this call again today, fulfilling the Lasallian mission, right? Understanding where our students are at, what they're experiencing, some of the potential good, but also the bad that can come from things. There's going to be groups out there that are going to take this technology and find a use for it, a niche use for it, to try to sell a product, right? Businesses in business to make money. So we're going to have to be up and up on evaluating the guardrails, the approved software, things like that. Whether it's through AI task force committees at your own universities or your high schools or your grade schools, etc. That can be very important. Speaking of, this is Grok, and I just wanted to highlight this for you. So this is what a user sees when they expand the options. Look at all these topics on the right-hand side. I can ask Grok, the AI tool, to respond as an assistant, which is the most common, a therapist. I can have it create a kids trivia game. I can have it diagnose or discuss medical issues like a doctor would. You can see some of the more risque topics. Argumentative. This one's 18 and up. So just be careful with that. This is not debate club practice. There could be adult or 18 or above social issues or social situations or personal situations involved. So that's what I mean by guardrails. And some of you may have already seen this before, and some of you, this might be the first time you've ever seen some of these options available. Not to mention the voice on the left and the speed of your answers and things like that. So these tools can be heavily customized. To mention this because I know the Lasallian schools aren't just college. We've got grade schools and such. And so one question I often get is, if you do deep fakes, is it illegal? And each state law is different. The federal laws are changing. But if the images are drafted or created off of real identifiable individuals, both the state of Minnesota, which is where I am, and federal, say that that's illegal, even if it's digitally altered or AI generated. So keep that in mind, that it does exist out there. It is possible for people to create images and such. As I don't know if I got kicked off before I mentioned this, but I know people whose children have had their images taken and they put into embarrassing situations. Not always graphical like this, but embarrassing situations. So, okay. I'm going to play a video here, just looking at the time here. Yep. So if you're wearing your headphones or AirPods or anything like that, just be mindful that there is some sound. We tested this earlier, and I don't think it was on full blast or anything, but just so you're aware.
My grandpa, a wonderful man, a member of the greatest generation.
It was a total scam. I fought in World War II and I fell for it. They called me, told me she was in trouble, and I heard her voice on the phone. She had a lot of trouble in the last year with her dad dying and everything. She said she was pretty banged up and they wouldn't let her go without paying. I went to Walmart and bought gift cards. They said it was easy to help her that way. Came to find out the scammer read the papers, the obituary, and they did something with a computer. The computer took the data from all the papers. I still don't understand how they did it. They saw when she graduated, photos of her, a picture of where she lived. It was a total scam. I fought in World War II and I fell for it. She was fine. No car accident. Oh, nothing.
So I play that, by the way, I made that with AI. That's a deep fake video. You can probably tell there are little bit of clipping errors, issues there. But I made that video to tell a story because the story he is telling is true. It happens every day. And it's becoming easier and easier to do deep fakes, to do telephone scams, you name it, with AI generated content. Right? In that video, he talked about his granddaughter. Again, fictional, I made it all up, but it's a true story. I've talked to people that work at Walmart and CVS and different places. And basically, what these people do is they use AI to read newspapers, on the internet, if they're published on the internet, whatnot. They build up likely targets and feed all the information, do some stuff that's very technical. If you want to learn how to do it, well, if you want to learn how to do it, I won't teach you. But if you want to understand how it's done, let's talk another time about all the algorithms and all that stuff. But essentially, they're using military intelligence. They're using recon, okay, military recon kind of things, variables, understanding topography, understanding situational awareness, demography, all kinds of stuff, segmentation variables, to put together a package, to put together, here's how I'm going to target this gentleman or this man. I'm going to come up with a story about his granddaughter because I got all this data from obituaries. I got life history about their granddaughter's father. And I'm going to use that in a script to convince this man that his daughter, who I'm going to use female voice narration because I was on her Facebook page and she was in a video where she was talking. They're maybe on YouTube. They're talking at mass, and I got her voice, so now I can strip her voice. So now I'm going to put that into a package and put it on the phone, and keep typing as the conversation changes, to convince him that I'm his granddaughter and I need some money. And it happens every day. Okay, so I did a deep fake to explain deep fake a little bit. Oops, can play again. Nope, nope, there. Okay, whoops. Okay. So the reason I share that one is, again, we're talking society here as well. College students get scammed all the time. Next month, February, our Center for Business Analytics at St. Mary's, I'm going to be presenting a scams in artificial intelligence. That's the entire topic, but it's all in romance scams, not about gift card scams. Well, it can be, but talking about that people that don't exist, and they just want your money. They're looking for vulnerable people to get their money. And college students can be hit up with catfishing. attempts and things like that as well out there. Especially when they use PayPal or Gazelle, any of these other cash apps as well. So in 2026, what's next? Well, you might have heard in the news all about water, land usage for data centers. You need a lot of water to cool down the machines, lower the temperature in the rooms. Companies are going to start shifting to running these models directly on your own computer or your own smart device. That way, it's now using battery consumption and heat from your phone to run things. And the telephone companies can now charge more money because you're using data. You're consuming a lot more data, or you're needing to do updates all the time. So even if it's on your own device, you'll still have to update the technology. But you're going to see more of that housed directly in your phones, right? The capabilities in your phones, instead of a direct link to one of these environments or softwares in the cloud. You're going to see more of the small language models. So when we use ChatGPT, we're hitting the mother load. We're hitting the mothership as far as the whole environment. What this is saying is, if I'm a lawyer and I need to focus on law retrieval information, court cases, things like that, there's going to be somebody out there. They're already out there, but I'm just giving you this as an example, that has made a legal industry only language model. It won't talk about any of these goofy fun topics, create videos and questions for an exam. It'll be focused on legal content. That will allow people to worry less about energy outputs and water, stuff like that, because you're not hitting the mothership every time you want something. So that's being worked on as well. As I mentioned, you're going to see more regulation coming out of EU. The United States is too worried about what China is going to do. So you saw recently the federal stance is we do not want states regulating AI. And one of those motivators is we need to compete with other countries, right? As a stance is, if we don't develop AI and become AI experts, someone else will, right? It's like the space race, race to the moon, that kind of stuff. So it'll be very interesting. I don't mean to sound lightly on that, but you got to think about those motivators like out there. So here are a couple of use cases from my world. As was mentioned in my intro, I am a business professor. I'm a program director of analytics, AI, data science, things like that, all with a business focus. And it also really ties well into what's going on in business right now. And this is tying back to what we need students to be ready for. Reporting and analysis, instead of sitting in a spreadsheet for hours, moving things around, you can ask AI, build me this. Can you answer this question? Blah, blah, blah. Workflow automation. This one here, I won't name names, but somebody is using an AI note taker on this call. And so that's what we're talking about here is there's a setting in Zoom and then other ones like Firefly and other tools where you can record this conversation or listen to this conversation, and AI will come up with notes. I've never tested it on what I speak about in a meeting, but we have one in our program directors meeting, and I look at it afterwards and I'm like, it didn't miss a thing. And it didn't give me 30 pages either. Like, it didn't miss a thing. So that's going to happen more and more. So the real question is going to be, how do we get our employees to attend meetings if we have these AI tools that seem pretty darn good? And then the age-old question, are we just having a meeting to have a meeting? Are we just having a meeting to check mark that we met for our monthly meeting? Because that's what we do. Logistics customer support. I know people that are in the supply chain industry who really use AI to analyze customer situations and provide alternative responses, oftentimes without a human directly responding as well. Coding, data optimization. I use it to code. Oftentimes I'm hired, not on retainer, but I'm often hired. I have a video game company on the side. I guess you call it a side hustle. And what I do is I consult with large video game companies when they run into problems or they want to expand their video game. They will come to me and say, hey, here's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we don't mess up our game's economy so that people quit. The game's too easy to get resources, whatever the resource is. We don't want people to quit. We want them to keep paying for expansions or monthly subscriptions. So, Michael, can you use your econometrics, your wisdom of coding, and predict what's going to happen for us? And so, oftentimes, I'm able to do that kind of work. Obviously, it's proprietary code, but I'm able to ask questions of different tools. Say, hypothetically, if 10,000 units and it took 50 units, blah, 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 give me 3 scenarios where X could occur, right? I'm able to do things like that as well. Synthesis and research. Administrators love feedback, but how many administrators know how to work an Excel spreadsheet, freeze the top row? If you're an administrator that knows how to freeze the top row on your own without an assistant doing it, you are ahead of the game, or unfreeze it. Let's say or do the reverse, unfreeze it. But guess what? You don't really have to worry about that anymore because you can ask AI to do a summary or to clean up a spreadsheet, put together an analysis for you as well. And then finally, I saved this one. This one's the one that people use it the most for. I know graphic designers. I know video game producers, social media managers do it all the time. Like LinkedIn is inundated with this stuff. Raise your hand if you're sick of LinkedIn because it's all about AI. Me, yeah, I got my PhD in it. You'd think I would love it, but no, it's too much. Even for me. So we're at the tail end here, but just looking at the time too. There's some things that I want you to be thinking about when you leave here today. The nature of the shift. Why did this AI come online and then start having an acceptance? Right? People want information. We live in a too long didn't read culture, even before AI existed. Right? Too long didn't read, TLDR. We all have students that don't read the textbook. They don't even buy the textbook. I'm not saying that the majority of students, but I'm just trying to paint the backdrop here. We have a world where people are ordering Uber Eats and delivery because they're way too busy to cook at home, or they just got to keep working and they're going to get home late. So let's just order that pizza. But they're doing it every night. Okay. And that's their prerogative. That's their choice. I'm not here to talk about diets and how people spend their money. But the point I'm trying to make is society has been moving towards instant gratification. When you have Netflix, what do? You binge watch a show. If your show is no longer on Netflix, you cancel the subscription. Oh, a new show or a new series, Stranger Things. Oh, let's re-up after all the episodes are done so we can binge watch and then cancel. YouTube, how many people love to watch a 2-minute ad? And at every opportunity, hit skip ad. We're ripe for this as a society of instant gratification. Too long didn't read, not knowing how to wait in a line anymore. Road rage, people getting irritated at 4-way stop signs, all that. AI reality versus hype. 4 years ago, everybody was saying, oh, nobody will use this. It's wrong all the time. This is silly. And look at where we're at now. We've got it on our phones. Companies are using it. I still think there's some hype out there. As I mentioned earlier, the return on investment isn't always the greatest. If you can save somebody 3 hours of time, you still have to give them 3 hours of replacement work. Okay. Some jobs, automated completely, absolutely. As I said before, if it's repeatable, it's programmable, and AI can do it. Okay. Should AI do it? That's not the question I'm posing today. That's a whole different webinar by people that have greater ethical training and workforce development training than I out there. Human AI collaboration, at what point, are there some decent things, good things that we can use AI for? Some people are talking about robots that do house chores. Is that good? Well, that could be good, could give you more time to do pleasurable things. Or is it just going to give you more time to work, to do your career stuff? What's it going to cost? Is it going to cost the price of a car? Will there have to be warranties? Will there have to be insurance? All kinds of stuff involved there. But even in the workforce, do I manage AI tools like AI agents? Or do I manage people that do that work? Or is there a mix? That's a thing that's been coming on and on and on with job descriptions. Bullet point, you will engage with AI agents and improve, prove and execute them or implement them. Evolution of skills. So what kind of skills are we needing to teach students? Therefore, impact on education. This one is an interesting one to me because in higher education or K through 12, it's kind of been a monopoly. And unless you're going to go into the trades for decades and decades in American society, where do you go to get education, to get a better job, to get a career going? Either the trades, or you go to college, or you go finish high school, you get your GED, whatever it is. But companies are starting to say, hey, I don't care about all that if you can do the job that I need done. And sometimes that job involves using AI. Or sometimes that job involves you using AI to learn how to do the job. Maybe I don't need to send an employee to graduate school for $25,000 with tuition reimbursement. Maybe I just have the super smart person in my company teach everyone else and save tons of money by not having to send people to graduate school. Okay? So a lot of different scenarios from that concept of monopoly, of, if you look at it that way. Institutional roles and ethics, I kind of combine those into every school should have an AI committee. Maybe you call it a technology committee and not an AI committee. But if you're not, then I think you're behind. And, as a Lasallian school, I mean, I shouldn't cast judgment. I don't know your schools, but students are using it. And if we're not on board with understanding how they're using it and having guardrails or understanding of that, then I think we're doing a disservice, in my opinion there. And people might disagree with me on that, but I have asked my students, why are you using it? What are you using it for? And I have found that students buy the premium ChatGPT for $20 a month, not because of a course fee, not because a teacher required it, but because they have found it a useful tool to study, to edit their writing, to just have entertainment for fun, draw pictures, things like that as well. And having a good relationship with students, I think that's where we thrive as Lasallian educators, right? And so I'm at the tail end here. Couple of pieces of advice for you. We need to teach meta skills. And this isn't anything new. Back when Wikipedia came on board, didn't we all say, hey, Wikipedia is not the best source for your paper? It's not always the best because it's user submitted, it's not peer reviewed, it's not professional. So we still need to teach students when to trust, when to verify, especially with AI because it's available to everybody. Promote prompt literacy. So you being here at this call is a huge step, but it is just the beginning. It's not as simple as just typing a few words. You get better quality with that. So you get out what you put in. In other words, AI tools also want to please you. So that's the thing I would share with students is AI tools can be trusted sometimes, but you should always verify. You should always be skeptical because these tools in and of themselves want to please you. They want to give you an answer and they want you to be happy. They're not paid, but when they get a positive response out of you, that sends a signal to the people that made the tool, yes, we're doing a good job. So it wants to please you. And be careful with hallucinations. It can produce errors, okay? It can produce things that sound convincing, but are really not. So teach meta skills. That has not changed just because AI has come on board. I think it's just exacerbated the issue. Just got my PhD, so I'm just gonna, this is what my PhD taught me. Many of you, if you have your PhD, you know these terms. Teach students these, no matter what class they're in. Generative AI is here, whether it's a freshman class, first year class, senior class, whatever. Reliability and validity, the consistency of GenAI outputs versus the accuracy of those outputs. And this is something you might all be wanting to see here. Gosh, isn't it funny how rehearsal, it goes faster, but when you do the live show, we're coming up towards the end here. But I have an assignment in my classes where a student can pick prior coursework or something they learned already in this course, specific course, and they have to use multiple generative AI tools to do something with that assignment. Redo the assignment, improve the assignment, submission, something. And they have to compare the different tools and how well they did. How far off was Claude versus Gemini with the same prompt, same information, same assignment? How did they differ? And students are often flabbergasted at how different they are. All right? So I recommend some sort of an assignment like that, where they share and pair, a guided discussion perhaps. Dedicate class time to this. I know class time is very valuable, but if you think about what's at stake, I believe that an experience in a class, a one-day class where students take the time to do this, share and pair, talk about it, it really pays dividends. It sets culture, responsible behavior, and students start to understand it themselves instead of have you as the instructor just pontificate, your view of AI. Okay? And it's also tied to workforce readiness. Okay? So in closing here, and we will have some time for questions. Lasallian pedagogy is grounded in presence, relationship, and meeting students where they are, right? Paramount. Knowing students as people allows us educators to understand why and how they use these AI tools. AI should be approached through listening and discernment, not suspicion or punishment. Doesn't work with my kids, doesn't work with high school students, doesn't work with college students when we talk about AI. Educators can guide students towards ethical, responsible learning. And this, I might get some questions on this, but it really depends on your class. At St. Mary's, the instructors are allowed to restrict, which means don't allow AI use at all. Regulate, which means you can use it in these ways, or allow it freely for anything and everything. Each instructor in each course that they teach is allowed to make those decisions. Human judgment or reflection is a tough thing to do when we're go, go, go all the time and stuff, but that's essential. As I mentioned, AI can represent new context for accompaniment. The workforce is expecting people to be aware of these tools to help aid them. And then, as I said, the Lasallian role remains constant. Presence, I tell people all the time, Lasallian presence. Get out of your office, walk around, talk to students in the commons, even if they're not your own students, even if they're philosophy students, psychology students that would never take your class. That just helps build a culture, right? Guidance and formation of the whole person, right? I graduated from Buttermere and we talk a lot about the whole person there. And just looking at the whole picture of the student, not just for their course material, but as a whole person. So thank you very much. Looks like we just got to the tail end there. Like I said, in rehearsal, it went a lot quicker. But I'll hand it over to Becca here.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's see. Well, thank you, Michael, for your insights and ideas to better understand the growing influence of AI in our schools, our ministries, and our society overall. I see that there was an article shared in the chat from Vatican News regarding AI. So I suggest to anyone to check that out if you haven't already. So thank you for sharing that. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I'm sure we're still all processing what we've just learned. So if any of your questions were not answered or you're still thinking of questions, please, as Michael mentioned, his contact information is on the screen right now. So please send him any emails with any other questions you may be thinking or pondering of right now. So thank you again, Michael. Really, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. I am grateful that so many people attended because I think educating people is where it's at, right? And
Absolutely.
serving our communities.
As we look ahead, I ask you all to mark your calendars for Wednesday, February 18th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time, as we welcome Dr. Nelson Tung, Chief Clinical Operations at Martin DePore Schools in New York, as we discuss the transformative healing power of grace. This will be a Lasallian-inspired, trauma-informed webinar designed to help all educators reconnect with their sense of vocation and explore sustainable self-care practices. If you have any ideas or feedback on today's webinar, please feel free to reach out to myself or Sarah, as we'd love to hear from you. Thank you all again for joining us for our webinar today. I hope you all have a great evening. Live Jesus in our hearts forever.